get disclosed, that is going to put me in a situation where I will have to withdraw from the case.
Okay.
If you disclose that information anyway, all of it needs to be destroyed now. But if you disclose it in any way, it's going to put me in a position where I will have to withdraw from the case. If you all choose to go on the internet and try to publicize this stuff, that's going to create real problems.
Okay.
You can't do it. That's what I'm telling you.
Okay.
This is not another boring podcast, Mustafa. Through the police body cams, and usually we would say the presiding judge, Judge Carol Weimer, under the microscope. But what we're going to do, we're going to take Judge Carol Weimer from under this microscope, and our focus would be Mustafa's defense attorney, Brad Haywood. And the questions that we're asking, is Brad Haywood working for Mustafa? Is he working for the prosecutor? Now, what we're going to do, we're going to take a deep dive now that the Department of Justice unsealed the transcript in the Mustafa Aljazairi case. We're going to find out what Brad Haywood is doing in the Mustafa Aljazairi case. We're going to go over the transcripts. What is Brad Haywood telling the presiding judge in the Mustafa Aljazairi case? And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Brad Haywood is working for the prosecutor. I'm not going to sit here and attack Brad Haywood, Mustafa's defense attorney. I'm here to report on what is going on in the Mustafa Aljazairi case. And the community is the deciding factor. Now, the Mustafa Aljazairi case, the police falsified a whole entire case. They falsified his statements. They crushed and staged his vehicle. They cut and mute his dash camera, the dash camera that he has inside the vehicle. They weaponized the children, a 9, a 10, a 14, a 16. Now, that's not my word against the police department in the Mustafa Aljazairi case. I've hacked the server for the police department, evidence.com, and I've gained all the body cams, the whole entire discovery, and I've leaked it on the internet. This is a sealed case. Commonwealth Amy Ashworth sealed off the Mustafa Aljazairi case. When you put in a FOIA, you can't get any body cam, you can't get any document, but I've hacked the system. Now I have the whole entire case, and we've leaked it on the internet. Now we get to look at what the government is doing in the Mustafa Aljazairi case. And the question is Mustafa's lawyer working for Mustafa? Now, Mustafa gets in a vehicle accident. This is a car accident. The details that are coming out of this case is that Mustafa did everything he can to avoid a vehicle accident. Mustafa sits in a county jail for 2.5 years without a trial. The prosecutor is terrified to take Mustafa to trial. 2.5 years. Here in Virginia, Mustafa sits in this county jail behind me, Prince William County Adult Detention Center, for 2.5 years in solitary confinement without a trial. And the question is, why hasn't Mustafa gone to trial? The previous attorney, before Brad Haywood took this case, Brad Haywood's been sitting on Mustafa's case for just about over 11 months. The problem that we had with the previous attorney is that we asked him to do basic things in this case. The most basic thing that you can do in a vehicle accident, which is reconstruct the vehicle and reconstruct the vehicle, get an independent expert, reconstruct the vehicle. The government wants to say that this is intentional. Now, you want to reconstruct the vehicle and find out, is this a car accident? The government is refusing to reconstruct the vehicle. We have details that are coming out of this case that this is a car accident. Mustafa's foot is on the brake the whole entire time. We have a body cam that shows the police inspected Mustafa's vehicle and found brake failure. The steering angle shows that it's counterclockwise. For 2.5 years, they've been telling us that Mustafa's steering angle is he's steering the vehicle toward the vehicles into oncoming traffic. Well, we're finding out that the steering angle is counterclockwise, away from the vehicles. So we asked Mustafa, previous defense attorney, that's before Brad Haywood, is to get an independent expert and reconstruct the vehicle accident. That has not been done. And Mustafa's defense attorney did not want to do that. Now, The second issue that we had is the details that are coming out of this case is the police department cut and muted Mustafa's dash camera. They removed the audio. They cut the vehicle before impact. They took 17 frames from inside the vehicle. Okay, the fact that the police department cut and muted this dash camera, you can hire an independent expert, go in and inspect the metadata of the SD card that the police department is in possession of and find out and extract the original and the full dash camera with the audio.
That the government says exists, by the way.
That the government says it does exist. Officer Zymus, digital forensic, Officer Zymus admit that she heard the audio. So there is audio. They've been telling us there is no audio. But in the case file, you find out there is audio. Now, there is Google Nest videos inside the apartments. That shows it's a beautiful relationship.
On his phone.
On his phone, we have it. Why is it not in Mustafa's file? Okay, why is it for 2.5 years it's not in the record? It's not as evidence. Now, these are the problems that we had with Mustafa's previous defense attorney, Blake Weiner. So, when we told him to do those three things, he said he's not going to do it. And he withdrew. Mustafa didn't fire that lawyer. He withdrew because he said he could not do the most basic thing in the Mustafa Aljazairi case. And today we have Brad Haywood, Mustafa's new defense attorney.
Hired by the county.
Hired by the county. And the county gave Brad Haywood $100,000 to reconstruct the vehicle, extract the SD cards,
$100,000.
and get to the bottom of what's going on in this case. Brad Haywood has been sitting on Mustafa's case for over 11 months. There's a judge order to reconstruct the vehicle, to have an independent expert and extract the dash camera. For 11 months, Brad Haywood has not done anything in the Mustafa Aljazairi case. He hasn't extracted the dash camera. He hasn't reconstructed the vehicle accident. And the question is, why? As Mustafa's defense attorney, the question is, are you working for Mustafa? And if you haven't done the most basic thing in the Mustafa Aljazairi case, what are you doing in the Mustafa Aljazairi case? So we're asking these questions, and we're going to get to the bottom of what is Brad Haywood, who is Brad Haywood, and what is he doing in this case? Now, Brad Haywood is terrified. Brad Haywood is upset. As a matter of fact, he wants us to shut down this channel. Wait a minute. Why would Mustafa's defense attorney wants this podcast to shut down? I had a phone call a couple of months ago with Brad Haywood, and it's raining heavy. It's raining really bad. What do you want to do?
Let's do this. Let's pause it for a little bit.
I mean, what do you want to pause it?
Let's pause it for a little bit.
I don't want the equipment to get ruined.
It's not.
It's not going to get ruined. I mean, I'm okay. I don't care about the rain. I just don't want my laptop to get messed up. You think it's going to get messed up? Can you cover it?
Just keep going.
All right.
You keep going. I'll just I'll monitor everything.
So let's do a recap of what Brad Haywood, Mustafa's defense attorney, have done since he got on the case. Now, Brad Haywood is assigned by the county. 2 days before Brad Haywood was assigned to Mustafa's case, they called Brad Haywood to be assigned to Mustafa's case. So 2 days before he was officially on the record, the presiding judge, Judge Carol Weimer, calls on Brad Haywood. He gets assigned to Mustafa's case. As soon as Brad Haywood gets assigned to Mustafa's case, Mustafa's defense attorney waives Mustafa's speedy trial. Now, Mustafa at that point has been incarcerated at a county jail without a trial for just about a little bit over a year and a half. Just about a year and a half. This defense attorney shows up without consulting with Mustafa, without talking to Mustafa, without getting Mustafa's permission. And as a matter of fact, Mustafa finds out afterwards that his defense attorney waived his speedy trial. Now, wait a minute. Is he patching this up for the prosecution, for the county? Because in Virginia, the government is supposed to take you to trial within 6 months, unless you waive your speedy trial. This defense attorney comes in after a year and a half of Mustafa's rights being violated, only to waive his speedy trial. Mustafa writes a letter to Judge Carol Weimer telling Judge Carol Weimer that, one, he's not okay with his rights, his speedy trial being waived, and this lawyer did it anyway. Waived his speedy trial without his permission. So that's on the record. Now, Mustafa's defense attorney, we had a lot of phone calls with this defense attorney, Brad Haywood, and what he told us, every time we asked him for the reconstruction, every time we asked him for the extraction of the dash camera, he tells us we're going to do it. What about the home videos? He said we're going to put it on the record. Now, the first month, the second month, the 4 month into it, 6 month into it, 7 month into it, fast forward to September. All of a sudden, Mustafa's defense attorney puts in a Brady motion. And in the Brady motion, Mustafa's defense attorney tells Judge Weimer on the record everything that we've been talking about, that Officer Robert Drum falsified Mustafa's statement, that the vehicle has been crushed, that the prosecution didn't block the reconstruction 2.5 years ago when there's a judge order to reconstruct the vehicle. Imagine, prosecutor Sami, imagine Mustafa's defense attorney in a Brady motion in September, he's telling Judge Weimer that prosecutor Sarah Sami blocked an independent expert to reconstruct the vehicle accidents. Why is the prosecution blocking the reconstruction? I mean, the prosecutor is claiming that Mustafa intentionally drove into oncoming traffic, that he intentionally did this on purpose. She says this is not a car accident. So the question is, wouldn't it be in her best interest to prove her case to reconstruct this vehicle accident? But instead, we have a body cam, and Brad Haywood is telling Judge Carol Weimer, the presiding judge, that the prosecutor Sarah Sami, blocked the reconstruction, and there was a judge order to reconstruct the vehicle. That the children are weaponized against Mustafa. Wait a minute. Mustafa's in a coma after the vehicle accident. Mustafa was in a coma, and the police department weaponized a 9, a 10, a 14, a 16 against Mustafa. I mean, at one point, the police are telling children that Mustafa ran away, left their baby sister to bleed to death, and the police could have saved their baby sister if Mustafa didn't run away. Mustafa was in a coma. What they're doing is they're lying to the children to weaponize the children against Mustafa. That's not me saying this. That's Mustafa's defense attorney, Brad Haywood, telling Judge Carol Weimer that the police department did this. Now, where is he getting this from? This is directly out of a forensic interview. The child himself is talking about the police telling him a bunch of lies. And there's a whole entire list. Mustafa's defense attorney went on and on and on about how the police department inserted a bias, how they condemned Mustafa guilty the minute they showed up. That there's a bias in this whole entire case. They botched up a whole entire investigation. There is no investigation. The minute police officers showed up, Mustafa is in a coma in front of his vehicle, laying on the floor in a coma. The police showed up and condemned him guilty. That's what Brad Haywood is telling Judge Carol Weimer in a Brady motion. Now, you don't have to take my word for it. We have the transcript. We have the motion for the Brady motion that Brad Haywood put forward. And we have the transcript where Brad Haywood was telling the judge. We can verify this because the Department of Justice unsealed the transcripts. Now, when you check the record, after the Brady motion, Judge Carol Weimer granted that Brad Haywood is entitled to a line of body cams that are missing from Mustafa's file. Because Brad Haywood, what he was telling the judge, is that when he's looking at the body cams are edited by the police department before being uploaded to the server. Some are muted, some are chopped up, some are cut. Mustafa's dash camera is cut and muted. What Judge Weimer granted Brad Haywood is that he's entitled to all the missing body cams. That's going to show that the police department falsified this whole entire case. That the police department weaponized the children. And he granted Brad Haywood an order to go in and reconstruct the vehicle accident. And the government issued and gave money, Brad Haywood, Mustafa's defense attorney, money to hire an independent expert to reconstruct the vehicle accident. Now, also, the government granted Brad Haywood money for an independent expert to extract the dash camera, the full dash camera, with the audio, the full dash camera, because the officer, Chad Mason, cut and muted this dash camera. According to Brad himself. Now, so the government gave money for 2 independent experts to reconstruct the vehicle accident and extract the full dash camera with the audio. And the judge gave the order, and the county gave the money to Mustafa's defense attorney. Now, when you check the records, you find out that there was a motion that was held, an ex parte motion that was held, a private motion. Ex parte, it means private. And Judge Carol Weimer, the presiding judge, held, by the way, it's illegal to hold an ex parte motion, a private motion, without Mustafa's defense attorney, without Mustafa. It's illegal to have a judge hold a private motion with the prosecutor. That is illegal. They held, but it took place. 2 private motions on the record are held without Mustafa's defense attorney, without Mustafa. I get a phone call from Brad, Mustafa's defense attorney, and he tells me that I got off the phone with the prosecutor after the private motions. And Brad is it's like I'm talking to a completely different person. Before all this, he used to tell me that the podcast that I'm holding for Mustafa is the only thing that's going to expose what they're doing in this case. And he'll reference another case, and he told me the only reason that other case got justice is because there was media attention that shed light on how biased that case was, that it gave that person justice. And the only way that your brother is going to get justice is by you exposing what the police department is doing in the Mustafa Aljazairi case. And Brad Haywood maintained that position until the private motion that was held between Judge Weimer and the prosecutor. Now, Brad Haywood is on a phone call with me, and he's not talking about the reconstruction. He's not talking about the extraction. And instead, he's telling me that what he wants to do is bring in Dr. Specker and remove the affidavit that she already has on file. Because Dr. Specker is a psychologist that came in, looked at the whole entire case, looked at the dash camera, looked at the evidence, and she said this is a car accident. Mustafa's reaction is consistent with someone reacting to a car accident.
She was ready to testify.
She was ready to testify. She put on an affidavit. What Brad Haywood wants to do is remove the affidavit from Dr. Specker.
By the way, in coordination with the prosecutor.
In coordination with the prosecutor.
They're filing a joint motion in limine to remove Specker's affidavit and come in and do something completely different that you and I don't know what the plan is. Mustafa doesn't know who's the client. In this case, he's the defendant. He doesn't even know what his lawyer wants to do.
And he wants.
That's a problem.
And that's a problem. Without consulting with Mustafa, without agreeing with Mustafa, you're sitting here it sure sounds like you've struck a deal with the prosecutor.
That's what it sounds like.
What he wants to do, Mustafa's being charged with murder for 2.5 years. The prosecution they charged Mustafa with murder. Now, the problem here for the prosecutor is for 2.5 years, she says that she has witnesses that Mustafa premeditated a murder. Well, now that there's a leak in this whole entire case, we have the body cams. Literally, the witnesses that the prosecutor is relying on are fake witnesses. They literally say, we were not there.
Or they didn't see anything.
They didn't see anything. That's what they say. Now, that's a problem for the prosecution because for 2.5 years, she's been telling the judge and telling everybody, I have witnesses.
I mean, that's what Drum wrote in his warrant. He said, I have 6 witnesses, and he named them on the scene that allegedly saw the accident, and they all, on body cam, in their statement, they say, we never saw the accident. We never saw anything. And now that you have the file that the Commonwealth attorney has sealed, she can no longer bring in these 6 individuals that, by the way, Robert Drum swore an oath that that's what the witnesses told him. And that was a lie. He falsified not only the warrant, not just Mustafa's statements, they falsified a whole bunch of stuff, including the data recorder from Mustafa's vehicle that shows he was on the brake the entire time. That shows his steering wheel was turned counterclockwise away from the vehicles into the side where he was trying to avoid an accident. It shows everything, okay? And they flat out falsified it. And the Commonwealth attorney sealed those files to cover up for the cops. That's
now that the file is
falsified
leaked,
she falsified it so that she can cover up for the cops.
I mean, now that the body cams are out, you can no longer charge Mustafa with murder. You've been saying that you have witnesses that are saying
you have evidence, you have witnesses. It's all a lie.
The details, exactly.
And then you go back to the basics of this case. This is a car accident. Why has a car accident not been reconstructed in 2.5 years? You ask yourself the question, what is stopping this car accident from being reconstructed? We know it's not money because the judge gave money to Mustafa's defense. We know it's not the prosecutor not allowing the defense to come in because the judge granted that order for the defense to come in and give chain of custody to the experts. That was already given. And we have a lawyer today who literally took the defense funds and handed it over to the prosecutor, to where even the judge is saying, wait a second, those funds were given to you and your client because you allege that police are hiding something. According to you, Brad Haywood, according to you, the police are hiding something, and I gave you funds to extract the information that the police have hid from you, that the prosecutors hid from you. Here are the funds. I'm giving you the order. Here, you have chain of custody of these items to have them inspected. And Brad Haywood does what?
Brad Haywood is upset that you're talking about this, by the way.
He takes the money,
yeah,
and he gives it to the prosecutor. I mean, that is
literally
like the definition of corruption, the definition of tampering with a case. He's doing it in real time, by the way.
How does it make sense that you're going to take the money that the government is giving you for your independent expert only to give it to the prosecutor who's been lying about for 2.5 years? She says there's no audio.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, you're going to give it to her independent expert? I mean, I'm not saying anything out of the transcript. Literally, if you read the transcript inside the court.
The judge says it. The judge is questioning, why are you giving funds that the government gave you for the defense? Why are you giving it to the prosecutor? When just 2 weeks ago you said that the prosecutor is withholding Brady material.
Exactly.
You held a whole entire, 4 or 5 hour hearing about how the police manipulated the children prior to their forensic interview, how the police are splicing body cams and not giving you the full body cams, how police state in their digital forensics analysis that there is audio to this dash camera, and all of a sudden you are no longer interested in going after the truth. You're giving the money to the prosecutor. It just doesn't make any sense.
He turns around to Mustafa and he tells him, Mustafa, now we have 2 independent experts.
And that was a lie.
That's a lie. That's a flat out lie. He's lying to his client.
He's lying to his client. He's lying to the courts.
He's lying to the courts.
He's lying to the courts when he tells the judge. Just the other day he said, I never said Mustafa's not entitled to discovery. You are literally telling the family and Mustafa. He told you Mustafa's not entitled to discovery.
I have a recorded phone call with Brad Haywood where he told me Mustafa is not entitled to discovery.
So let's analyze it.
That's illegal.
Let's analyze it. If the lawyer is telling you in private, Mustafa's not entitled to discovery.
By the way, I am a power of attorney of Mustafa.
Okay, the lawyer is telling you, Brad Haywood is telling you, Mustafa is not entitled to discovery. He tells Mustafa in private, Mustafa, you are not entitled to discovery. But then you stand before a judge and you say, I never said Mustafa is not entitled to discovery. Let's analyze that situation and come to a conclusion of what that means. It means you are working with the prosecutor to withhold information from Mustafa. You can no longer say the prosecutor is withholding information from you because you are literally withholding information from your client.
That's a violation of due process.
Okay, you're withholding information from your client. It's been 2.5 years, and Mustafa simply asked the question. The police department extracted information off of my cell phone and Dorothy's 3 cell phones. Where is that information? I want that information because it's exculpatory. The prosecutor is accusing me of having an argument with Dorothy, and I'm saying I didn't have an argument with Dorothy because she gave me money as we're leaving the house, as we're leaving the apartment. She cash apped me money. She gave me money on Apple Pay to put in the gas tank.
It's a beautiful relation. They have a beautiful relationship, and the government is accusing you that you don't have a good relationship with your girlfriend.
I mean, this is like the most basic thing any lawyer could do. If the prosecutor is saying you are arguing with the driver, Dorothy and Mustafa were having an argument, it's very easy for a defense attorney to say, that's not true. I have evidence from the police extraction of these cell phones that Dorothy gave him money. How could you argue if she's literally giving you money?
I asked Brad Haywood in a phone call that I have, and it's recorded, by the way. I asked Brad Haywood literally about 3 weeks ago. I think 3 weeks ago. I asked Brad Haywood, hey, Brad, Mustafa wants to go through the hard drive that the prosecutor gave you. That's exculpatory evidence. Mustafa is entitled to go through the hard.
You've not only requested from him, by the way, you've requested it from the private investigator that the government is paying to work for Mustafa.
I asked Brad Haywood, did you go through the hard drive? Did you go through Mustafa's text messages? Because the police department did a cell phone dump between Mustafa
and... Cell phone extraction.
Did you go through the cell phone? He says, no, I haven't gone through the cell phone.
Why not?
What? You've been sitting on Mustafa's case for just about 10 months.
And you haven't gone through cell phone data?
Does that make sense to you? You're the defense attorney.
This whole case, by the way, is built on the narrative that Mustafa and Dorothy were arguing. That's what the prosecutor wants to allege in this case. That Mustafa and Dorothy were in a heated argument and he crashed the car because they were arguing.
Hey, Brad, did you go through the hard drive? No, I haven't gone through the hard drive, but we have time. We have time.
Robert Drum says in his warrant...
He never went through the hard drive.
Look, Robert Drum in his warrant states that Mustafa had an abusive relationship with Dorothy and her children. Did you go through the hard drive to check out what kind of communication Dorothy and Mustafa were having? Because you can easily disprove that narrative by simply getting information that the government already has and the government is giving to you. But you're saying, no, I'm not going to go through it. And he tells Mustafa, it's not important. How is it not important?
How is it not important?
If somebody is accusing me of having an abusive relationship with you, you don't think it would be interesting to find out what kind of cell phone communication you and I are having? So, wouldn't that be the first thing to look at?
So
Am I sending you hearts? Am I sending you kisses? Am I saying I love you at night? I mean, you want to say this is an abusive relationship, right? So let's look at the communication. And by the way, if he's guilty, if there are bad messages, the prosecutor would have been all over it.
Oh, 100%.
But I haven't heard a single
100%.
person mention the cell phone data dump out of the prosecution's office. In 2.5 years, not a single prosecutor stood in court in all these hearings. Not a single prosecutor stood in court and said, Your Honor, look at these messages.
No.
Look at what they were saying between themselves on the cell phone message. Nobody mentioned it. Matter of fact, they don't even put it in the system. They don't even put it on evidence.com because they're so damaging to the prosecution's narrative that they have to put them on a separate hard drive so that nobody can review it. And all they have to do is make a deal, strike a deal with the defense attorney to say, hey, he's in solitary confinement. Steer him away from the cell phone data dump. Steer him away from it. If he asks you about it, just say it's not important. Just say, don't worry about it. It's not important to this. I mean, the whole narrative of this case is she's alleging he was arguing. Drum says he was in an abusive relationship. I mean, this brings the cell phone data dump front and center. This is the whole entire case. Was he abusive to this woman and her children? Let's look at the cell phone data. Let's look at the text messages. Let's look at all their communications. Let's look at the Alexa that was in the house that was recording 24/7. Let's look at the Google Nest that was constantly recording every single motion in that apartment. Every time there was motion, that camera recorded and it sent it to both Mustafa's phone and it sent it to Dorothy's phone. Let's look at those videos. You want to say he's abusive?
That's right. His cell phone has an app for the dash camera that's in his car that automatically uploads it to his cell phone.
Video to the cell phone.
And he has another app for the Google Nest videos that automatically uploads.
Automatic.
Okay.
And then he also has an Alexa.
And he has an Alexa.
That records text.
Now,
text to speech. Now, if Mustafa in the apartment was saying, hey, Dorothy, fuck you, that would have been on the Alexa. Was he saying that? Was he abusive? Was there arguments? Let's have a look. Now, the prosecutor's not looking at it. Why is the defense attorney not looking at it? That's your job.
I think it's fair to say we can agree that Mustafa's defense attorney, Brad Haywood, is avoiding the hard drive of the cell phone dump of Mustafa's cell phone. And we can agree. We can agree, right?
We can agree to that.
And the reason I say that is because Mustafa's defense attorney, Brad Haywood, is so far he's been on Mustafa's case for just about 11 months.
11 months, and he has a private investigator paid for by the government.
So
he can ask his private investigator, hey, I don't have time for this. I'm a busy man. I have an organization dedicated to civil rights. I have a lot of cases on my hands. You, private investigator, were paid by the government, specifically hired for Mustafa's case. Here's the hard drive. Go to the jail. You have 4 hours every time you have a visit. Take 4 hours. I mean, he's already been paid $10,000. He could say, hey, how much is your hourly rate? Matter of fact, I'll pay it. I'll pay your hourly rate if you go and sit down with Mustafa and go over this hard drive of the cell phone data dump. Okay? Go over it. Why? And by the way, what we noticed in this entire case in the past 2.5 years, when the prosecutors are scared of looking into something, there is something there. There is something there. If there was anything negative in that hard drive, they would have put it front and center. But the fact that they've never mentioned the hard drive, and every lawyer that comes on is, I don't know what's going on with these lawyers.
Now we can agree.
They're scared to look at evidence to show your client is innocent.
I think it's fair to say we can agree that the prosecutor, the fact that she didn't upload Mustafa's cell phone dump, which is digital, to the server, evidence.com, she's avoiding the cell phone dump.
She's avoiding it.
And it's also fair to say that Mustafa's defense attorney has been avoiding the hard drive.
Oh, 100%.
Okay. The question is, why is he avoiding? Why are they both, the prosecutor and the defense attorney?
If you're counting how many times
Brad Haywood is avoiding the cell phone dump.
If you count how many times Mustafa requested it,
yeah,
I've requested it, you've requested it, and it hasn't happened yet. It means something is happening with this hard drive. There's something on this hard drive that they do not want anybody to see. I mean, they don't want Mustafa to see the discovery file. They don't want him to see the discovery file, and we know why.
You've listened to the phone call, the last phone call I had with Brad Haywood.
I've listened to all of them.
You've listened to all of them, and it's a lot of phone calls. Now, the last phone call is very unique because I asked Brad Haywood 3 simple questions. I told him, your client is asking you, you don't have to show me anything. I'm not your client.
Yeah.
I'm not your client. Your client, you're not picking up Mustafa's phone.
He's not picking up any of his calls.
Mustafa calls you over and over and over. You don't pick up his phone. So I'm communicating to you that your client, Mustafa, is asking you for 3 basic things. The judge ordered the reconstruction of the vehicle. You haven't updated Mustafa on the reconstruction. You haven't updated Mustafa on the extraction of the dash camera. You haven't sat down with Mustafa. Mustafa wants to go through his hard drive, his cell phone dump. Now, Brad Haywood, after that phone call, he puts in a motion to withdraw from the case. Now, he says my client is innocent, but I cannot, in court, when you read the transcript in court, he says,
I cannot do what my client wants me to do.
What is your client asking you to do?
What does your client want you to do? Let's look at it. Let's take a look at what Mustafa wants
By the
done
way,
that Brad Haywood says is impossible for him to do.
It's impossible to sit down with your client to go over the hard drive. That's exculpatory evidence.
100% exculpatory.
One, he's avoiding the hard drive. The prosecutor is avoiding the hard drive. So Brad Haywood, Mustafa's defense attorney, is avoiding the hard drive. The prosecutor is avoiding the hard drive. When you find out there is apps that automatically transfer the dash camera, another app that automatically transfer the Alexa, an app
Google
that transfer the Google Nest videos. You
Text
find
messages.
out. Now, in this case, Officer Chad Mason already admitted to Judge Carol Weimer that he tampered with the dash camera. And when I say tampered, we can go through the transcript. And literally, Chad Mason said, when I showed up on the scene, I took the dash camera off of Mustafa's windshield. I took it back to my car. I took the SD card, plugged it into my laptop. That's what the officer is talking about. That he downloaded the files from this dash camera, put the SD card back in the dash camera, went back and stuck it back on the windshield. And then he said, I called the Commonwealth attorney, and she told me it doesn't have audio.
That's funny. She told him it doesn't have audio.
He's the officer.
He has the camera.
He's the officer on the scene.
He's looking at the videos. And the prosecutor who's sitting in her office is telling him this dash cam does not have audio. What does that look like?
So,
what does that look like?
I mean, you can draw the conclusion that the prosecutor is telling him, cut the audio. Now, what this officer did, so he notified her that he violated the chain of custody, because there is a chain of custody with the police department. Right. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to take this dash camera, take it to digital forensic, get a warrant, take a warrant. What this officer did, he sat on the files for 2 days and then got a warrant 2 days later. I mean, imagine an officer downloads the dash camera, sits on it for 2 days, and then gets a warrant 2 days later for those files.
By the way, that's the same thing. That's the same thing as if an officer kicks in your door, goes into your house, rummages through your house, flips it inside out, and then a week later gets a warrant for kicking that door in a week ago. That's the same exact thing.
Well, the problem with all
that's the same exact thing.
The problem with this is that today we have a dash camera that has no audio and is cut before impact, and there are 17 frames missing from the camera facing inside the vehicle. So the way what he was supposed to do is take the dash camera to digital forensic. Digital forensic is supposed to mirror and copy the files in this dash camera to protect the integrity of the files, and then upload it to the server,
so that
evidence.com.
So that you don't have a situation like we have today where we're saying there is audio on this dash camera. By the way, according to digital forensics, there is audio on this dash camera, and your officer admitted to tampering with it. That's what you don't want to happen, okay? Now, Internal Affairs, who is supposed to be doing their job without us having to force them to do their job, they're supposed to do their job whether you're looking or not, okay? You have a Brandon Doodley who's sitting in court, not willing to answer questions. I mean, you have an obligation to answer to this community. Your job is to overlook what these officers are doing and ensure they're following policy.
Do you know how Internal Affairs is? By the way, Captain Doodley is so stupid, he doesn't even realize what happened in courts. When I was in court, he was sitting right behind Prosecutor Sarah Sammy. And after court, Prosecutor Sarah Sammy and Captain Doodley with Internal Affairs, they're laughing. And Sarah Sammy, the judge is ordering her to give everything to the defense, the missing body cams. And she's sitting there. I'm hearing what she's telling him. She's telling him there is nothing to give. Missing body cams.
But she tells the judge
that I'm going to look into it.
She's going to look into it. And she turns around and tells Doodley,
now,
there's nothing to give. And she's laughing with him.
You went to Prince William County Police Department, and multiple times you attempted to file a complaint with Internal Affairs.
With Internal Affairs.
And you're sitting there waiting for Internal Affairs to call you back. And they never call you back. But we're entrusting that an agency within an agency that's not okay with corruption. That's
By the way, let me tell you a quick...
Let me tell you, in court, I ran an experiment. Let me tell you what I told... When Doodley was there, I told him, hey, you're with the police department. You're Internal Affairs. I would like to talk to you. I would like to have a conversation about what the officers are doing in this case. He said, I'm not open to interviews, and he just stormed out. Now, I'm gauging what Internal Affairs is doing in the Mustafa Aljazairi case. I don't give a fuck about talking to him. I want to find out, is there an agency within an agency that actually want to hold these officers that falsified this case accountable?
Not
or are they covering up for the police department?
I mean, they're literally
let me tell you,
in your face. They're covering it up.
The fact that he ran away tells you everything you need to know about internal affairs.
All he should have said, he should have said, sir, as a member of this community, as a citizen of this country, I want to assure you, whatever the officer's wrongdoings are, we're going to hold them accountable. That's all you have to say.
As a person, I mean,
that's all you have to say.
I already have evidence that your officers falsified this case.
And internal affairs covered it up.
What you should have done is sat down with me and told me, we are looking into those officers. I know your officer falsified this case. It's not my word.
You have the proof.
I have the evidence. I have the body cams. I have the whole entire discovery. Evidence showed that your officer falsified the whole entire case.
An entire case.
And
falsified.
you are protecting. I mean, that's what you have.
You took away a man's freedom based on Drum's lies.
Now that we know, this police department is not interested in finding out what those officers did. Now, we take a step back and we ask the question, why are they terrified from the hard drive? Now, the prosecutor, now we know that the officer Chad Mason cut and muted this dash camera. And the judge ordered an independent expert to go in and extract the metadata of the SD card. That today, Brad Haywood literally took the money, gave it to the prosecutor's independent expert. How does that make any sense?
Brad Haywood tells you in private, he tells you that Investa, a company that he hired and he allegedly gave the government's money to, already looked at this dash camera and he's waiting for the results.
That's right. I have a recorded phone call.
By the way, hold on a second.
Yeah.
This sounds really familiar. Where a lawyer is telling you he's waiting for the results. Let's take a step back and remind ourselves what Casey Stevens told us. When you gave him $5,000, he hired Stephen Keene to reconstruct this car accident. And he went in, took pictures, did whatever he did. And every time you ask Casey Stevens, hey, Mr. Stevens, where are the results from this accident reconstruction? We paid you money for it. We paid you a lot of money. We paid you $50,000. Where is this accident reconstruction? And he tells us, oh, they're analyzing the data. It takes them a few weeks to do it. Okay, we're still waiting on the results. You know, they got to crunch in these numbers. They got to do this. They got to do that. 2.5 years later, we find out that Casey Stevens never intended on getting an accident reconstruction. They never reconstructed Mustafa's car. As a matter of fact, they never even wrote a report. Stephen Keene tells me in a phone call that Casey Stevens told me not to write a report. He specifically told me not to write a report. Yet we have recordings of Casey Stevens telling us, hopefully by the end of the month, I'm going to have this report.
Did you know that Judge
Weimer,
in
reality, there was never a report being made.
Did you know that Judge Weimer blocked Blake Weiner, the previous defense attorney, from getting that report from the reconstruction of the vehicle?
Yeah, I was there.
Do me a favor. Go over, go to exhibits. I want to.
I was in court.
I'm going to pull up a transcript from court. Now that the DOJ is unsealing the transcript, we can dive in and find out what happened in court. Is Judge Weimer a impartial judge? Why is a judge who gives an order to reconstruct a vehicle accident is blocking the reconstruction results? I have here, after a request having been made to Mr. Stevens, I am denying, this is what Judge Weimer is saying, I am denying the order at this point. I think that there are other ways in which to do that. Why are you denying? By the way, this is September 20th. Mustafa already went through a bond motion.
2024.
You're telling me that they took Mustafa through a bond motion, denied his bond before even getting the result from the reconstruction?
Look, it's very obvious.
They put Chad Mason, Officer Chad Mason, the same officer that muted the dash camera, to testify. This is not a car accident. Wait a minute. Where's Mustafa's independent expert? Why isn't Mustafa's independent expert testifying that, yes, this is a car accident and the police department are lying about this? Instead,
Judge Weimer blocks.
In September 20, way after the bond motion, is blocking the defense attorney getting the data.
From the old lawyer.
And
when you ask Blake, did you give that information to Brad Haywood after you got it? He says he gave him everything. You ask Brad Haywood, did you get the information from Blake Weiner? He's like, I didn't get anything. I mean, where is the disconnect? This is information. This is a reconstruction that you paid money for.
$5,000.
You paid money for that.
To hire an independent expert to reconstruct a vehicle.
You paid a lot of money for it.
Only to have the independent expert show up on scene and they're blocking him from reconstructing the vehicle.
He got blocked from looking at the car.
This is...
According to Sarah Sammy, she says she doesn't want anybody manipulating the car.
Do me a favor, go over to exhibits.
What car exactly are you talking about? The car that you crushed?
At the scene, the vehicle looked one way. They take the vehicle to the police department, crush it, and they're staging the vehicle. And then when we bring in an independent expert, he's not allowed to touch the vehicle. How could you reconstruct the vehicle? And they tell him the prosecutor said you cannot reconstruct.
Sarah Sammy specifically.
Sarah Sammy, prosecutor Sarah Sammy said you cannot touch the vehicle.
Because she doesn't want it manipulated.
What do you mean? You the police, crushed the vehicle.
You crushed the crap out of that car.
But he's allowed to take pictures and scan the vehicle with his Faro machine.
How does that make sense?
So you're scanning the vehicle that they crushed. The computer is not going to read the accident.
Again, we remind everybody that we are in America. This is the United States of America. As an accused individual, you have the right. You have the right to inspect anything that is considered or deemed evidence. You have the right. That is your right. Your constitutional right. You have the right to inspect anything that the government deems as evidence.
This is a car accident. How could you get to the bottom of it without reconstructing it? So we bring in this independent expert. He's not allowed to touch the vehicle. Instead, he's only scanning the vehicle. By the way, they removed the original scan. The original scan at the scene, they removed it. So the prosecutor says, we allowed him to reconstruct the vehicle. Well, let's watch a body cam where he's being blocked from reconstructing the vehicle. And then whatever data that he got, Judge Weimer is blocking it.
He sealed it.
He's sealing it and blocking it from getting it to the defense attorney. We just read the transcript.
By the way, if I was in court, his reasoning for blocking it, he says he doesn't want the prosecutor to get a hold of it. What? You don't want the prosecutor to get a hold of the reconstruction?
Judge Weimer?
Judge Weimer says he's only blocking it so that the prosecutor doesn't get a look at it.
So the defense attorney is asking for this data, and the judge says, no, I'm not going to give it to you because the prosecutor might get it. How is the defense going to get it then?
He's not going to get it. He's not giving it to him at all.
So, wait. Okay, so Judge Weimer orders a reconstruction of the vehicle. This independent expert shows up, is being blocked from reconstructing the vehicle.
By the way, he's saying he was told to not write a report by Casey Stevens.
Oh, beautiful.
He said he was...
The defense attorney that's working for the police officer.
Told the reconstruction guy not to write a report. What was the point of paying for it?
Let's watch this here. Prosecutor Sarah Sammy, during the Brady motion, says to the judge, because Brad Haywood argued, and he said, the independent expert was blocked from reconstructing the vehicle 2.5 years ago, and Judge Weimer says, he's been blocked, so let's put another order to reconstruct the vehicle.
Yep.
And
Sarah Sammy says he was never blocked.
Okay, so let's watch this body cam, see if he was blocked or not. Okay,
let's have a look.
Which one is it?
What's that?
Which one is it?
It's in the box. Per my conversation with Sarah, so this is the first time I've ever done this in 18 years. She said we can pull it out for you.
Yeah.
You can look at it. She doesn't want anybody touching it.
Okay. Like touching it, I mean, can I?
Like if you want to take pictures and all that, but if anything needs to be manipulated, we'll do it for you for chain of custody issues.
Perfect. Sure. Okay.
But
I find it really interesting. Why take pictures but you can't touch it? And independent experts, why is he? How could he reconstruct the vehicle? By the way, he wasn't allowed to take the pictures.
That would make sense if the car was preserved just like it was on the scene. But you literally have a car that is crushed and chopped up by the police department for no good reason. They crushed and chopped this car up.
Go over to exhibits.
For no good reason.
Go over to exhibit. This is what the vehicle. This is what the vehicle looked at the scene.
Wow.
That's what the vehicle looks inside the police department.
Wow.
So they removed the original scan, the Faro scan.
And she says she doesn't want the car to be what? Manipulated? Are you...
And they
I mean,
want to
manipulated is an understatement.
They want to scan the vehicle after the police crushed and staged that.
Look, I mean, look, scanning the car on the right.
But he can't touch it, though.
Scanning the car on the right and scanning the car on the left. I would say the car on the left probably went through a war zone. Okay? The car on the right, I mean, that's a car accident. But the car on the left, it looks like it came out of a war zone. Did they take it to Baghdad and bring it back? I mean, really,
it sure said. I mean, it took it.
Where did they take this car to make it look like that?
I think it's safe to say if you take this vehicle back to Baghdad, it's gonna come back in one piece.
What is that?
What have you done to the vehicle that it looks like this?
What is that?
I mean, would you be surprised to say? I mean, like, let me tell you.
How is Brad not filing a motion to dismiss based on destruction of evidence?
Where is Mustafa's
They literally
defense
destroyed
attorney?
the evidence. The one piece of evidence that shows he was trying to avoid a car accident, the police take it and crush it so that you can't see anything. So that you can't reconstruct anything.
Well, the police department tell you the reason that we crushed a vehicle like this is to extract the ACM.
Well, you have a video of extraction of an ACM from the same car.
An extraction of the ACM, the vehicle is not caved in. I mean, when you listen to what the police department is telling you,
it just doesn't make any sense.
You find out that they're staging the vehicle. They're telling you that the reason, and this is Mustafa's vehicle at the scene, and they said the reason that we crushed the vehicle, cut the roof, rolled the vehicle, crushed it, is because we were getting the ACM. The ACM is right here. Right there. Does that vehicle look caved in?
Play your video.
It's not caved
from the
in.
junkyard.
It's not caved in. It is not caved in. So why did you crush the vehicle like this? And your excuse is to get the ACM, which is right here. Why'd you cut the roof? Why'd you chop up the vehicle?
There's no good explanation. There's no good explanation other than the police destroyed his evidence.
I'm going to play a video for you.
The police destroyed his evidence. That's all I can say, is the police took evidence and destroyed it.
And the question is, where is Mustafa's defense attorney, Brad Haywood?
Where is he?
I mean, do I have to say, I mean, at this point, I don't have to say that Mustafa's defense attorney is not working for Mustafa, is working for the prosecutor. You're going to ask the question, as a community, where is Brad Haywood?
Where's his lawyer on all this?
Where is his lawyer from filing a motion to dismiss that the police crushed and staged the vehicle?
Why do we have to sit in a courthouse parking lot at 12 in the morning asking the simple question, when police destroy evidence in a major case like this, where is his defense attorney? Why is his defense attorney not filing a motion saying the police crushed the car and they don't have a good reason for it? Okay, you're going to play a video of us volunteering our time, going to a junkyard.
Is there internet on this?
Should have internet.
It should have.
Going to a junkyard to demonstrate to the police, to demonstrate to the community how easy it is to extract an airbag control module from a 2007 Chrysler 300. Okay? It's not that hard, folks. Okay? It's not that hard. You remove the shifter and the airbag control module is sitting right in front of you. You don't have to chop up a roof. You don't have to crush the car. You don't have to chop it up. You don't have to do any of that. Okay? So the only logical explanation for that car looking the way it did after the accident and what the police did to it is destruction of evidence. They literally destroyed the evidence. You look at his dash camera, same situation there. Chad Mason admitted he took the dash camera out of police policy and procedure and he destroyed it. He took that dash camera outside of police policy. He admitted to it. Okay? You look at the Google Nest, there was a camera inside that apartment that was constantly recording 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It was recording any motion. I mean, we have videos of the children. When the police knocked on the door, the children ran to the camera saying, "Hey, Mom, Moses, the cops are here. What do we do?"
Google Nest video that shows the beautiful relationship.
So the camera was recording all the way up until the police took a hold of that apartment. Where is that camera? The police destroyed it. Where is the footage? The police hid it. They put it in a separate hard drive away from evidence.com, away from the discovery material. They put it in a separate secret hard drive And they're ignoring the fact that there's a camera recording 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're ignoring that fact.
Can you do me a favor? Can you put the password for the internet? Okay.
I mean, what kind of police department?
What we're going to do, we're going to play a video. Me and you, we went over to the junkyard. We found the exact vehicle that Mustafa drove. And the police department claimed that the reason they crushed the vehicle is to get the ACM. That's not a good reason. That's not a good enough reason. I mean, that's not a reason at all, because the vehicle was not caved in.
By the way, I'll say this. I'll just say this really quick. Amar.
Yeah.
When the police have already put out a narrative, they're saying Mustafa was abusive to the kids, he was abusive to Dorothy. You've already put that in black and white. You've already put that in black and white. When videos surface from the apartment that contradict what Robert Drum put in his warrant, what he put in the reports, what the prosecutor already said in court, the right thing to do is to update your file, update your information. There are Google Nest videos that show the police lied. Okay? And the reason why we're here tonight, the reason why we're here 2.5 years later, is because police refuse to correct their wrong. They're willing to bend over backwards in order to say we're right. We're always right.
And Brad Haywood, Mustafa's defense attorney, is now protecting the police department.
I mean, you have video evidence to contradict the prosecutor's narrative. Video evidence. And it's nowhere in the file. You have a dash cam that contradicts everything the police said. Everything. The prosecutor said. You have a dash cam video. I mean, when a dash cam can't save you in America, God help you. God help you from police corruption. If a dash camera cannot save you from police lies, God help you.
I mean, the real question is...
God help you in America.
The real question is, Brad Haywood is Mustafa's defense attorney. Where is Brad Haywood from going on his social media platform and talking about his client?
Why would he do it if he's literally giving Mustafa's funds to the prosecutor?
That's right.
Why would he even, like... He's so far off from the truth. He's so far off from doing the right thing that he's handing over funds given to his indigent client. By the way, the government gave that fund to Mustafa because they deemed him an indigent person who can't afford to hire his own expert. So the judge says, in America, you have the right to due process. You have constitutional rights, and the police violated them. So in America, you have the right to a fair and just trial. You have a right to a trial, a speedy trial. Here are funds, okay? Here are funds to your defense attorney. Hire the appropriate experts to extract the information that you claim in court the police violated and tampered with. Here are the funds. And the lawyer says, Prosecutor Sammy, here you go. You can do whatever you want.
But that's not what he did back in September. This is back in September when he filed the Brady motion in September. He told Judge Weimer that evidence showed that they cut this dash camera. There's the metadata, the SD card. I want to hire an independent expert, and
so the real question is why.
And then all of a sudden, and then the Judge Weimer said, and Prosecutor Sarah Sammy got up and she said, "Your Honor, we want to hire an independent expert too." Wait a minute. For 2.5 years, you sat on this. You said there's no audio.
You sat on this camera for 2.5 years.
Your digital forensic officer, Cassie Zimus, says she heard the audio, that this dash camera does have audio. This is a document in a sealed file. And then she testified to it later during a motion to dismiss that there is audio to this dash camera. So for 2 years, Prosecutor Sarah Sammy, Prosecutor Stephanie Buck, you've been hiding that this dash camera has audio. And today, in September, Brad Haywood, Mustafa's defense attorney, says, I'm going to hire an independent expert. She got up and she said, I want to hire an independent expert.
Who is her expert?
Doug Lacey.
Okay.
Doug Lacey.
Let's remember that name, because you're saying in a Brady motion where Brad is saying, I want funds to hire my expert, Prosecutor Sammy got up and said, we also want to bring in our expert. His name is Doug Lacey. That's the prosecutor's expert. Brad Haywood said, my expert is Investa. Investa is a company that has what is it, experts that go in and look at evidence. They have experts, all sorts of experts, by the way, to reconstruct accidents, to look at data from cell phones, to look at dash cameras, to look at digital items, okay?
The question is, what happened?
Investa was Brad Haywood's experts. Prosecutor Sammy said, we also want to bring in our expert, Doug Lacey. Fast forward to November, a few days ago, and Brad Haywood is now claiming he no longer has
faith in his.
He no longer has faith in Investa. Okay, if you have no faith in Investa, I can literally Google IT experts in Northern Virginia, and 26 companies will pop right up.
That's right. Why not hire another independent expert? Instead, you're going to take that money and literally give it to the prosecutor's independent expert.
Okay, so let's continue the.
How does that make any sense?
Let's continue the saga. Brad Haywood says, Judge Weimer, the money you gave me, I'm going to give it to the prosecutor to bring in Doug Lacey. I don't want to bring in my own expert. I'm going to rely on the prosecutor's expert. And Judge Weimer says, well, hold on a second now. Hold on a second. Just the other day, you brought up like 20 Brady motions saying that the prosecutor is lying, that she's withholding evidence, she's hiding evidence, they're destroying evidence. Now, all of a sudden, you have faith in the prosecutor to bring in her expert. I gave the money to you. I gave that money to you, and you're giving it to the prosecutor. I don't want to hear in a few days, in a few weeks, you coming back to me and saying, I want more money for an expert because Doug Lacey didn't do his job right. Because now you're saying that is your expert. You're taking the prosecutor's expert, who she already spoke to, by the way. I don't want you coming back and saying, oh, the prosecutor talked to him. She corrupted him. I don't want you coming back and saying, I want an expert for my expert.
Now, this is problematic.
Okay, this may be the best political doppelganger analysis.
The judge sees a problem here.
The judge sees a problem here. And this is problematic because...
And you don't see a problem with it, Brad?
Well, the problem here is because this is the same Brad Haywood that sat in front of Judge Weimer in a Brady motion in September, and he told Judge Weimer, Your Honor, the main investigator is going around and he's inserting a bias in this investigation. He's painting that he's lying to individuals about material facts of this case. He's inserting a bias, and I have multiple body cams where the police department investigator, the main investigator, and other police officer are inserting a bias. Now, knowing what you know about this police department, why would you take that money and give it to the prosecutor, independent expert, who has a bias, who for 2 years has been hiding the audio?
By the way, the prosecutor doesn't need your money. They can ask for their own funds. They can ask for their own funds. They have their own funds to do whatever it is that they do. And by the way, they already had Kathy Zimus look at it. That's digital forensics of Prince William County. And if Prosecutor Sammy wants to stand today and tell us she has no faith in the Prince William County digital forensics, then I say fire Kathy Zimus, because you're paying her salary for nothing. If Doug Lacey can do it, why don't you just put Doug Lacey as Prince William County digital forensics?
Look, the question
Why
is...
do you even have a Kathy Zimus to begin with if you have no faith in her?
The question is, so we go back all the way to Mustafa's hard drive. Mustafa's hard drive is the cell phone dump, okay? Now, we agreed that
I think
the prosecutor...
I think the hard drive is going to be...
Look, the prosecutor...
is going to be the key to this entire case, because the hard drive holds very vital information, particular to this case.
And
very vital information.
And we can agree that Brad Haywood is avoiding the hard drive. That's a fact. Yeah. I mean, you can't tell me you've been on Mustafa's case for 11 months and you haven't gone through the hard drive.
You never
and you refuse to go through the hard drive with Mustafa.
And you won't even let your private investigator do it.
What's on this drive? What's on this hard drive?
Everybody's so terrified of. Let's be real.
That the prosecutor and Mustafa's defense attorney is terrified from. Now, what if I tell you, we're going to do me a favor, go over exhibits. There is a transcript where Mustafa's previous defense attorney,
Blake Weiner,
tell Judge Weimer, exactly, Blake Weiner, tells the presiding judge,
what's on this hard drive.
What's on this hard drive. Now, we know that Mustafa's cell phone has certain apps an app for the dash camera that automatically upload the dash camera, another app that upload the Google Nest videos into his cell phone, another app that upload the Alexa, and there was
text messages,
and the cell phone dump is uploaded into this hard drive. Now, Blake Weiner, the previous attorney, tells the judge what's on this hard drive. Let's read the transcript.
Let's read what Blake Weiner said about this hard drive.
The data extraction from multiple cell phones. This is, by the way, this is November 2024. This is the previous defense attorney is telling the presiding judge. The data extraction from multiple cell phones of the two individuals of this case who have passed, as well as, I believe, like a third family. Yeah, like a third family. Was that better? Mm-hmm. A third family phone. There might even be a fourth phone, but it's multiple cell phones, as well as, I believe, all of the data. Oh, I'm sorry. Also, one of the cell phones for my clients. And also the data extraction from the dash camera that was part of this case. In total, the top of my head, I believe the data extraction, it was large enough that it needed at least 1 terabyte hard drive for the Commonwealth Attorney to put the data in.
1 terabyte.
1 terabyte of data, and he said the dash cam is on this drive.
I mean, that explains everything you need to know about this drive and why they're avoiding it.
This is problematic for the police department because here you have Officer Chad Mason who's testifying to tampering with the dash camera.
Saying there's no audio.
Saying there's no audio. What he did, he cut and muted the dash camera. Well, even though he cut and muted the dash camera, the original dash camera is already uploaded to Mustafa's cell phone.
It's on his hard drive.
It's on the hard drive.
It's on the hard drive.
That would explain why the prosecutor is avoiding the hard drive.
But why is Mustafa's defense attorney avoiding this hard drive? Unless
he's compromised.
Unless there's going to be many officers, many agencies, and I've said this before. You have the Office of Medical Examiner, Jean Xavier Maya, who falsified a medical examiner report. You have...
But Brad Haywood is not talking about it.
He's not talking about it. You have the police department with all the officers, mainly Drum, Chad Mason, Davis, those who falsified a warrant, those who falsified vital information in this case. The whole entire case is built on these lies by these officers. Okay? And you have internal affairs who covered it up. And you have a whole entire prosecutor's office who looked the other way when the truth was right in front of them. They looked the other way to protect agency 123. Now, you have all this pressure on a defense attorney, Brad Haywood, and they're telling him, the county's telling him, Brad, this hard drive is the key to this whole case. If you uncover this hard drive, these officers are not getting a pension. They're probably looking at jail time. You have internal affairs officers who are probably looking at jail time. Okay? This is probably going to go all the way up to the chief of police. Okay? You have a whole entire medical examiner office implicated. You have the entire prosecutor's office. That whole floor is implicated in this case. I mean, we've made this thing very public. And a lot of heads have looked at this case and they want to tell us nothing to see here before the file was unsealed. But now that the file is unsealed, everybody's saying, I didn't know. Prosecutor Sammy wants to say, I didn't know. We're going to wrap this up because
it is raining.
It is raining.
And I want to end this podcast. I want to end this podcast. I want to thank everybody for being here. And the question that we're going to continue to ask on this podcast is where is Brad Haywood, and what has Brad Haywood done in the Mustafa Aljazairi case? The government gave him over $100,000 to reconstruct the vehicle. There's a judge order. They gave him money for an independent expert. Brad Haywood has not done that yet. Where is the extraction of the dash camera? There's a judge order. And there's money for an independent expert. Brad Haywood has not extracted the dash camera.
The community is looking at what he's doing.
The community is monitoring what Mustafa's defense attorney, Brad Haywood, is doing in the Mustafa Aljazairi case. And we're asking questions. What is Brad Haywood doing in the Mustafa Aljazairi case? I want to thank everybody for being here. We're going to continue to put Brad Haywood's Mustafa's defense attorney under the microscope. I want to thank everybody for being here. This is not another boring podcast. Mustafa through the police body cams. Brad Haywood, you are under the microscope.
If any of that is posted anywhere on the internet, we're going to have problems.